The voices in your head are not you. Evicting the inner tenants. You've been living with tenants who don't pay rent. Fear, shame, old grudges, replayed arguments, worst case scenarios. The voice that tells you you're not good enough. The voice that tells you what they probably meant. The voice that builds a courtroom in your head and calls it protection. And somehow, all of these voices walk through the house like they own the place. But here's the shift. You are not the tenants. You are the landlord who forgot you had the keys. The voice in your head may be loud. It may be familiar. It may know your history. It may use your memories, your wounds, your fears, your old patterns. But that does not mean it is you. A voice can live in the house without owning the house. A thought can pass through your mind without being your identity. An emotion can rise inside without becoming your master. And fear can speak with confidence while still being completely wrong. Most of us were never taught this. We were taught to believe the loudest voice in the room. And when the loudest voice is inside our head, we assume it must be telling the truth. But what if it isn't? What if the voice in your head is not the owner? What if it's just a tenant that got too comfortable? What if it has been rearranging the furniture, locking doors, opening old boxes, inviting grievances over, and charging you emotionally for the privilege? That is what I meant by the inner tenant. The inner tenant is not just one voice. Sometimes it is the critic, the one that says, you should be further ahead by now. Sometimes it is the worrier, the one that says, something bad is coming. You better prepare for every possible disaster. Sometimes it is the shamekeeper, the one that keeps replaying the same conversation, adding new arguments, new evidence, new closing statements. Sometimes it is the defender, the one that says, don't open up, don't trust, don't soften, don't forgive, stay armored. Sometimes it is the people pleaser, the one that says, be whatever they need you to be so nobody leaves. And sometimes it sounds spiritual. Sometimes the tenant puts on a robe, lights a candle and says, I am only trying to protect your peace. But if it is keeping you afraid, divided, resentful, ashamed, or trapped in the same old story, you have to ask, is this wisdom? Or is this just fear with better vocabulary? Because not every voice in the house is bad. Some tenants bring flowers. Gratitude can stay. Humor can stay. Creativity can stay. Compassion can stay. Discernment can stay. The voice that reminds you to breathe can stay. The voice that helps you forgive can stay. The voice that helps you tell the truth without cruelty can stay. The voice that helps you create, love, repair, and begin again can stay. The goal is not to empty your house. The goal is to stop letting fear-based tenants claim ownership. Because there is a difference between having a thought and becoming a thought. There is a difference between noticing a voice and obeying a voice. There is a difference between listening and handing over the deed. The rent you pay is attention. The rent you pay is belief. The rent you pay is emotional energy. The rent you pay is obedience. Every time a thought says, you are not good enough, and you spend the next 3 hours proving it right, you paid the rent. Every time a grudge says, replay that trial, and you sit in the courtroom again, you paid rent. Every time fear says, imagine the worst, and you build your future around that, imagine you paid the rent. Every time fear says, imagine the worst, and you build your future around that image, you paid rent. Every time shame says, this is who you are, and you forget the light beneath the wound, you paid rent. Most of these tenants moved in when you were trying to survive. Some of them arrived when you were young. Some of them showed up after betrayal. Some of them came from religion. Some came from family. Some came from school. Some came from systems that taught you your worth had to be earned, measured, defended, or proven. So of course they sound familiar. They have been living here for a long time. But familiarity is not the same as truth. A grudge can occupy the same room for years if you keep renewing the lease with your attention. Fear can sit at the head of the table for years if nobody questions why it is there. Shame can hang pictures on every wall and call it identity. But the voice does not hold the deed, you do. And this is where the real shift begins. You are not the loudest tenant in the building. You are the landlord. You are the one who can notice the noise. You are the one who can pause before reacting. You are the one who can ask, is this thought helping me return to the truth? Or is it just pulling me deeper into fear? You are the one who can say, I hear you, but you do not get to drive. You are the one who can say, you may be present, but you are not in charge. You are the one who can say, this house belongs to peace. That does not mean you attack the tenants. Eviction is not violence. Eviction is restored authority. You do not evict the voice by fighting it all day. You evict it by no longer mistaking it for you. You hear the thought, you notice the pull, you feel the old charge, and instead of becoming it, you witness it. You say, there is fear, there is shame, there is the old argument, there is the need to defend, there is the urge to prove, there is the story trying to become identity again, and the moment you can see it, you are already standing somewhere deeper than it. If you can hear the thought, you are not the thought. If you can notice the voice, you are not the voice. If you can observe the storm, there is something in you that is not the storm. That something is quiet. It does not need to shout. It does not need to win every argument. It does not need to rehearse every defense. It does not need to punish you into becoming better. It knows it does not need to keep old pain alive to prove that it matters. It knows what the tenants forgot. You were never the noise. You were the awareness behind it. You were the light in the house before the fear started moving furniture around. And this is also where discernment comes in, because you are not only the landlord of the house, you are also the gardener of the field. And part of awakening is learning to separate wheat from weeds. And part of awakening is learning to separate wheat from weeds. Not every thought deserves a room. Not every seed deserves water. Some thoughts feed you. Some thoughts consume you. Some thoughts open your heart. Some thoughts tighten the cage. Some thoughts lead to repair. Some thoughts lead to another war inside yourself. Wheat is what nourishes love, clarity, forgiveness, courage, honesty, humility, patience, peace. Weeds are what choke the field. Fear, grievance, shame, resentment, revenge, separation. The endless need to be right. The old identity that can only survive by staying wounded. And here's the tricky part. The weeds do not always look like weeds at first. A grievance is a weed that learned how to sound like justice. Fear is a weed that learned how to sound like protection. Shame is a weed that learned how to sound like truth. Resentment is a weed that learned how to sound like strength. But you can tell the fruit. Does this thought bring peace? Does it bring honesty? Does it bring freedom? Does it make me loving without making me weaker? Does it help me see clearly? Or does it make me smaller, harder, colder, and more afraid, more separate? Discernment is not attack. It is honest sorting. You do not separate wheat from weeds because you hate the weeds. You do it because you remember what the field is for, and your mind was not made to be a courtroom forever. Your heart was not made to be a storage unit for every old wound. Your awareness was not made to be rented out to every fear that knocks. At some point, you just have to stop subsidizing the inner chaos. At some point, you have to stop letting every passing thought redecorate your identity. At some point, you have to stop confusing mental noise with spiritual authority, because the tenant talks loud when silence threatens the lease. The grudge gets louder when forgiveness approaches. The fear gets louder when love starts returning. The shame gets louder when truth starts opening the blinds. But loud does not mean true. Old does not mean permanent. Familiar does not mean rightful. And a voice that has been there for years can still be asked to leave. Not with hatred, not with panic, not with another inner war, but with calm authority, the kind that says, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but protection without love becomes a prison. Thank you for trying to prepare me, but preparing for disaster is not the same as living. Thank you for trying to keep me from being hurt, but closing every door is not peace. Thank you for showing me where fear still lives, but you do not own the house, and you do not get to name me anymore. This is the eviction notice, not against your mind, not against humanity, not against the parts of you that were scared. This is the eviction notice against false ownership, against the belief that fear has the final word, against the belief that shame tells the truth, against the belief that old pain gets to define the whole house, against the belief that the voice in your head is who you are, because you are not the tenants, you are not the grudge, you are not the shame, you are not the fear, you are not the critic, you are not the courtroom, you are not the old argument, you are not the story that keeps trying to become itself. You are the one who can see them all. You are the one who can choose again. You are the one who can open the windows. You are the one who can stop paying rent to fear. You are the one who can separate wheat from weeds. You are the one who can let the field breathe again. And maybe that is what healing looks like at first. No fireworks, no perfection, no instant silence. Just one honest moment where a thought rises and you do not have to kneel to it. One moment where the voice speaks and you do not call it God. One moment where fear knocks and you do not hand it the keys. One moment where the landlord remembers. This house was never abandoned. This field was never cursed. This mind was never beyond peace. The tenants were loud. The weeds were many. The story was convincing. But beneath it all, awareness remained. Quiet, patient, untouched. Waiting for you to remember. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one that hears it. You are not the tenant in the house. You are the one that holds the key. You are not the weeds in the field. You are the one who remembers what the field is for. And when you remember that, even for a breath, the whole house begins to change. Not because every voice disappears, but because the owner has returned. Final spoken word. To the fear that moved in quietly and called itself my name, to the shame that locked the windows and taught my heart to blame, to the grudge that kept the courtroom lit long after truth had gone, to the voice that wore my wounded face and told me to hold on. I hear you, but you are not the landlord. You are not the light. You are not the hand that writes my name in the silence of the night. You may have lived for many years. You may know every door, but this house was never yours to keep. You do not own me anymore. Gratitude may enter, compassion may remain. Courage bring your steady breath, forgiveness wash the frame. But fear must leave the master room and shame must drop the key. The wheat will rise, the weeds will fall, the field returns to me. I am not the voice that trembles, I am not the thoughts that swarm. I am the quiet that was waiting before the fear took form. So dream if you must, but I will wake. And when the old tenants speak, I will smile and say, I hear you. But I remember now, I am the one who holds the lease. And maybe this is what waking up really is. Not destroying the house, not hating the tenants. Waking up to the truth is like the Lord returning to his mansion. The voices may still echo. The dust may still be there. Some rooms may still need light, but the house is no longer abandoned. The rightful presence has returned, and when the true owner returns, the tenants no longer get to pretend they are the master. The end.